deal is going to be put out pretty soon. I mean, we'll see. It's right now a little bit in progress, but pretty far along. It gets us everything we needed.
How long will the deal be, Mr. President?
Infinite.
The bug eaters at Davos are breathing a little easier after President Trump announced a framework of a future deal with respect to Greenland, holding off on new tariffs and won't use the military to grab that big, beautiful piece of ice.
Would you like me to say a few words of Greenland? Big, beautiful piece of ice. It's hard to call it land. It's a big piece of ice. After the war, which we won it big. Without us, right now you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps. After the war, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that? But we did it. But we gave it back. But how ungrateful are they now? I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force. All the United States is asking for is a place called Greenland. It's the United States alone that can protect this giant mass of land, this giant piece of ice, develop it and improve it and make it so that it's good for Europe and safe for Europe and good for us. They called me daddy, right, last time? We want a piece of ice for world protection, and they won't give it. They have a choice. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember.
Meanwhile, the liberal media is painting President Trump as the bad guy for looking out for American interests.
What we are dealing with today is what happens when the winners of World War II, one of them, realize the order they built is crumbling, and that the global hegemon is sounding and maybe acting now like an Axis power. Maybe we're the bad guys.
25th Amendment, it's time.
You believe at this point that the President of the United States may not have his full faculties?
I felt that before now.
Greasy Gavin was watching Trump's speech, longing for that spotlight and hoping to psych out the president. But whoops, Newsom claims that the White House blocked him from speaking at the event tomorrow. And he just wound up as a chew toy for Besant the Bulldog. Watch.
Governor Newsom, who strikes me as Patrick Bateman meets Sparkle Beach Ken, may be the only Californian who knows less about economics than Kamala Harris. He's here this week with his billionaire sugar daddy, Alex Soros.
All right, Dana, we have a framework for a future deal with respect to Greenland.
Perfect. As I said yesterday, just go and declare victory because they're giving you 9/10 of what you've asked for. And it is going to make the situation better. I thought that he did a couple things today. First of all, he said, everyone in Greenland, you can come out of your bunkers now. I'm not sending in the military. That was the main headline. He is not going to send in the military. The second thing he did that was more effective than I've seen him do in the past, and I think he'll probably do it at the State of the Union, is he explained more about the reasons for the Golden Dome and why we would need that, why the Israelis have been successful utilizing that technology in the past, but we have to up our game because of the situation in the north. So I think he was laying out the case for why it made sense. And he was needling the Europeans, of course, because they're slow and they're sclerotic and they're bureaucratic. But at the end, after the speech, he did the Q&A. And in the Q&A, I thought he really shined. In fact, I thought that was the best part because he said, I have a command of these issues. I know what I'm talking about. And I also think he's always known he's going to get what he basically wants. So now all they have to do is to figure out the details, and he can say, going forward, that we have what we need in order to, in his mind, secure the hemisphere, which includes Europe and the western part of the world, and Canada in particular. Canada, the leader there gave a pretty I wouldn't say should I say anti-American?
Say it.
Anti-American speech, but it certainly ruffled the president's feathers, and it's probably not necessary because the Golden Dome would protect all of us.
Mm-hmm. He said he's been getting a free ride for quite some time. Greg, you liked the speech. Mm-hmm. You were enjoying it today.
I did look up Golden Dome on Urban Dictionary. It's disgusting. Why do people do that?
Should I look it up?
Yeah, look it up. I hate Davos. The whole point of going to Davos is to spend the next 12 months telling everybody that you were in Davos. And you'll work it into a sentence, even if no one asked you, you know, hey, Greg, I hear Uncle Steve died. I know. My heart is as heavy as a snowfall in Davos. It's like, it basically is Coachella for the Cialis crowd, you know, with like all these figureheads and parkas, you know, craning their necks to see who's more famous than they are. It is disgusting. And this is why when Trump is there, it's magical. The orange skunk at the garden party shows up. You know, he didn't go to Davos to be part of Davos. He went to Davos so it could be part of him. And that is what makes him so special. Love him or hate him, when he leaves that room, everybody there felt like America First threw up all over them. It's like it's like talk about a golden dome. They got golden showered in America First. So it's like being in, like, I try to explain to people who don't understand Trump. It's like being in a courtroom. You're in a courtroom and there's this absolutely vicious lawyer. And if he's yours, you love him. And if he's not yours, oh my God, you hate him. So he just went into Davos, which is basically a European court, and made the case for our country, and did it very bluntly. And you could have quibbles with it. And you see The View, obviously doing The View, and it reminds me, and this is where I think a lot of people end up with him. I could see myself in my late teens, like watching him and thinking, oh, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed because he's so mean. Why can't he be polite? I mean, my God, he makes us seem so stupid. But then I've been on this planet for 6 decades, and I understand everything he's doing and where he's coming from because I have the experience of 60 years. He's a pit bull, and he's protecting our yard.
Yeah. How old is that sweater? Is that also 60 years old?
I don't know. Do you like it?
It's got a look, Greg.
What's wrong with it?
If you ever went to Davos, you should bring the sweater.
If I were wearing that, he would say.
What's wrong? Wait, no, what's wrong? Just because it's white?
You were wearing that. I thought that was yours, Dana.
Wait, is it because it's white?
I like the sweater, but when you wear it, then you look like, Dr. Evil.
Oh, that was the effect, Dana.
Does it have shoulder pads?
It's ALD, Émile Leon Doré.
Oh, it's French, even better.
It's not French, it's from Brooklyn.
Okay. Harold.
I thought, first, good to be with everybody. I thought what happened today was if the president writes a book about this is, I heard earlier today, this would be The Art of the Threat. He did his threat, and frankly, I think the other side did theirs as well, and I'll come back to that. I think we got out of this today. I listened to the speech in its entirety, his speech to the World Forum, and he was himself. He was, at times, I thought, informative, inspiring, and at times brilliant. Then other times, I didn't know where he was going, and it seemed like he was meandering, and he got caught up in some of the kind of the political speech making that he does. But at the end of the day, if the framework is indeed something that allows us to have military bases there, protect not only us, but our interests and even our NATO friends, and allows us to benefit from the economic resources, natural resources they have, this will be a win. I think the president probably also learned today, and I think our NATO allies probably learned today, that to the other side of the art of the threat, that when you have leverage against President Trump, it actually works out better for everybody because you find yourself being less confrontational and more collaborative and more cooperative. I think China was going to be the winner if we kept fighting with Europe and we kept fighting with NATO publicly. But the fact that I heard Dana's point about Mark Carney. I actually thought Carney, as critical as he was of the president, I think the president respects that. I think the president doesn't do well in a negotiation if he believes that they're weaklings. And NATO exercised a little leverage and exercised a little strength, showing that maybe we won't send our soccer teams for the World Cup. And I think the president said, no, I need those soccer teams here next year for a variety of reasons. So they won, we won, and I think if NATO wins, China loses. Russia loses. So we found ourselves, I say to Democrats, don't get so caught up. Greg is right. Don't get so caught up in the literal Trump. I think you got to understand that Trump is at its best. He's at its best when he is put in a position where the negotiation maybe takes a little turn. And I think today the negotiation took a little turn, and he gave us a better outcome than we started today.
Did Canada threaten not to send a team?
No. The Europeans have suggested that they may not send their teams, but the Canadian Prime Minister, to Dana's point, made the point that look, this is not a rupture. This is not a blip. This is a rupture in our relationship, and we can't afford a rupture.
Harold.
No.
He was
running into China's arms.
No, I'm talking about he's talking about just the rupture between NATO and America. But anyway, I think today, I'm agreeing with you. I think today America got a better deal today. American workers, American companies. And for those of us American soccer fans, we got a better deal today.
Soccer is gaining a lot of traction around the country.
Emily.
Do you guys remember in The Devil Wears Prada when, I know you know this scene, when they're talking about the color blue and the intern is like, it's just blue. And then the head of the entire magazine says, you have no idea that that color was decided for you 2 years ago, that would be in right now, cornhole or cornwall, whatever color blue it was. And the point is that was what Davos used to be, right? It used to be elite signaling and not quite decision making, but coordination. And they would set the media narratives for the upcoming year of who was accepted and who wasn't, and who was wearing the right turtleneck and who wasn't. And Trump, I'm kidding. I love it. It looks great. You look great. And Trump came in there, and I feel like the first term, we saw him, frankly, being shunned and mocked by those self-proclaimed elites. And now he's standing there, and he's still not talking to them as one. He's talking to them, and he's representing the people. He's obliterating these narratives that they tried to craft with substance for once, because it was never about that decision-making. It was only about that coordination, the shoulder rubbing, things like Gavin Newsom likes to do, which is tout relationships rather than actual results. So I love that he came in there and he absolutely blasted it apart of what matters, because up until now, what would come out of Davos is just what we think should matter, but not what actually gets those solutions accomplished. But I'll say this, of all of these conversations, I haven't yet heard, and I think it would go a long way for our president to acknowledge the voices of the Greenlanders and the Inuit. And you know how I feel about the meteorite, that we need to return it. Please return that dang meteorite. But more importantly, those Greenlanders and the Inuit have been sterilized and terrorized. They are economically being undercut by the Danes, and everyone around them right now is talking as if they're not in the room, and they can't hear, and they're not listening, and that they don't have a voice. So I would love to hear. And finally, the Greenlanders and the Inuit we want to do what they want to do, and let's listen to their voices, because they have been robbed of it for literal centuries. And I think that would go a long way in the global conversation and the narrative of President Trump to acknowledge that.
All right,
I love the idea of rubbing shoulders, not elbows.
Oh, was it elbows?
But I think you rub elbows, but like the visual I got is men in turtleneck rubbing shoulders.
It's like what Bush did to Merkel. He'd rub her shoulders.
Totally.
Tell me about that meteorite in the commercial, okay? We'll get to it. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.